In this video, we'll do how to call a method or invoke a method, or you can say how to access a function or method, or how to execute a function. To execute all the statements given or written within the function definition body by providing actual values to the parameters if the parameters are given within the brackets. Otherwise, this part can be skipped also. It's not necessary that the parameters will be there in function. Function can be non-parameterized also. Okay, so to execute all the statements given within the function definition by providing actual values to the parameters if the parameters given is known as function calling or invoking a function or executing a function, or you can say accessing a function. Okay, in order to execute the statements written in the function body, okay, you will be calling that particular function, and this process is known as function calling or invoking. Okay, and if the function returns a value, then it should be received at that place where the function is called or invoked. Okay, if function returns a value means if there is return type, any type of return data type in the function definition, it means that function is returning some value. Okay, so in that case, if function returns a value, in that case it should be received at that place where the function is called or invoked. Okay, understanding? If a function is returning some value, that value should be received, okay, in a variable wherever you are calling that function. Okay, that function is called or invoked. Then syntax, if void means function has no return type. In that case, how you will call a function? You will just simply write the name of that function followed by the parenthesis semicolon. Semicolon will be there in function call statement. Okay, but in function definition you will not put the semicolon as it terminates the body of function. Okay, this is function call statement, a single statement. You are just calling this function, whatever the name you are writing, that function will be called. The control will go over there to that function. Okay, so this is a single statement of function calling statement. That's why semicolon is there. So if function has no return type, if void, then you will call like this, function name followed by the parenthesis. Okay, no return type and no parameters. Okay, this is the syntax, and this one is the example. I have taken a specific name, show. Name of function is show. Now if void but do not return anything. Okay, if function is void means non-return type function, not returning any value. Okay, then function name, list of parameters. How you will call the function? Show. You are passing the values. One is integer type, one is float type. Okay, then example of this, integer m equals to 10, float q equals to 4.0f, and you are passing these values while calling the function. You are calling function show and you are passing these values, these parameters m and q as the parameters you are passing when you are calling function show. Okay, here you are calling, this is the function call statement. You are calling a function show and you are giving, you are passing values, pass by value. You are passing these values. These are the actual parameters here. Okay, you are passing these values to the function show while you are calling this function. Okay, and if function has return type and without parameters, these parentheses are empty, and if I am saying with parameters, there will be parameters in these parentheses. Okay, if has return type, then it means whenever you are calling a function by writing name of function, you will be receiving a result. You will be this function is returning a value. So whenever you are calling this will return a result. So you will be receiving that within a variable. Okay, so we'll write a variable name over here. Receiving variable, any name, identifier name of variable equals to function name parenthesis. Okay, we are calling this function. Control will go to that function, will perform the task and will return a value that we are storing within this, and we will be using this value of this variable in the program. Okay, for example, we are calling show, and whatever this function is calculating and returning, that is of integer type, we are storing the result of show, or whatever show is returning, that value we are storing in variable result, that is of integer type. Okay, now suppose if function has return data type with parameters. In both the cases, if function has return type with parameter or without parameter, you have to write the assignment statement in that case, because if function is returning some value, then you have to receive that value within a variable. Okay, in the last example we received in result. Okay, here also this is with parameters, that was without parameters. Okay, this one without parameters, we are receiving the result in result variable. Whatever the show is returning, we are taking that within this variable. Now if with parameters, doesn't matter, we are calling show, we are passing these actual parameters to show. Show will calculate whatever the task is there. Then this function is returning integer value, that value we are storing within result. We are calling show, whatever this function is returning, we are storing that within this variable. Okay, now come to, there are few points in your book, I'm just going to tell you. The data type of receiving variable must be same as returned from the function definition. Okay, we are calling function show, that is returning some value. So which type of value that function is returning, so that data type should be similar to that variable data type in which we are receiving the result of show. Okay, then the receiving variable name used at the time of function call can be same as given in the function definition. The names of variable can be same. Okay, and it may be different. Then calling or invoking a function like show is wrong. Show int m comma int q is wrong because while calling a function, either constants or variables without data type are used. In other words, the correct way of calling a function is show mq. In function call statement, you will write only the m comma q. Okay, you will be having the values of m and q, or you must have declared these variables earlier before using. Okay, so you will not pass like this show int m comma int q. In function call statement, data type should not be there. Okay, you must be having value within m and q. You must have declared these variables and initialized these variables before writing function call statement. So there should be only m comma q. Okay, now come to return statement. What is return statement? Return is a keyword, and this keyword is used to return a value from the function definition. Okay, to function call statement. Return is a keyword that returns a value from function definition to function call statement. Through function call statement, we invoke a function. The control goes over there to the function definition. Okay, and that function definition will return a value. Okay, that you can assign within a variable in the function call statement line. Okay, And this statement, you can say, transfers the control back to function call statement. Fine. In function definition, there will be return statement. Whenever return statement encounters, this transfers the control back to the function call statement, the statement who invoked the function. Okay. And the syntax of return is return keyword in small letters followed by the value. Within parenthesis you can write, or without parenthesis you can also write like this, return value, or this is the syntax, and example is return x within parenthesis brackets or without brackets, or you can write the value directly, return 1, 0, any primitive data type can you can return. Okay. And a function can return only one value at a time. You can write many return statement. Okay. But as soon as return statement encounters, control goes back to the function call statement. So only in that case also only one return statement will be executed. Okay. So a function returns only one value at a time. Now come to how to invoke arguments to functions. When we pass arguments or parameters to functions, we can pass any value of a legal Java data type. Okay. You must know about the primitive data types, Java data types. And the arguments to a function can be of two types. Primitive data type, char, byte, int, long, etc. And reference data type, that is object and array. Okay, these two type of arguments can be there to a function. Now there are two methods to invoke or call a function. As we discussed earlier, how to invoke a function, how to call a function. The two methods are call by value and call by reference. The first is the call by value we are discussing. In this method, call by value method copies the value of actual parameters into the formal parameters. Okay. Actual parameters means original parameters. Fine. Copies the values of original parameters or actual parameters into the formal parameters. That is, the function creates its own copy of parameters and then uses them. Okay. If you are passing values, then the copies of the function will be receiving the copy of actual parameters. Okay. And the function will be having its own copy of parameters and then the function will use them. Okay. The original copy of argument value remains intact as you are receiving the copy of original value. You are not receiving the original value. You are receiving in call by value method, you will be receiving the copy of actual parameters in formal parameters. Okay. So the original values will remain intact. You cannot alter the variables that are used to call the function. It means you cannot alter the value or you cannot change the value of original or actual parameters. Okay, that are used to call the function. Because any change that occurs inside function definition, if you are making any change in your copy, the changes will not reflect into the original one. Okay, because any changes that occurs inside function is on the function's copy of argument. So in call by value method, the changes are not reflected back to the original value or to the actual parameters. Simply in call by value method, you will be passing the actual parameters and you will be receiving the copy of actual parameters into formal parameters. And if you are going to make any change in the formal parameters, that is having the copy of actual parameters, so if you are making any change in that, that changes will not reflected back to the original value. The original value remain intact in call by value method. Now come to call by reference method. In this method, the mechanism is different. In this, we don't pass the values. We pass the reference to the original values in the form of class object. Okay. So in place of passing a value to the function being called, a reference to the original or actual variable is passed, and a reference stores a memory location of a variable. Okay. In this method, the function being called is not receiving copy of actual parameters. Okay. It will be receiving the reference of actual parameter, original parameter. Will be working with the actual parameter. So if you make any change in the value of variable, that changes will be reflected back to the original values, as you are working with the original variables with the help of reference. Okay. So this is the main difference between call by value and call by reference, that in call by value the original values remain intact, actual parameters, and the changes reflected back to the original value. Okay. Fine. In call by value, the changes are not reflected back to the original values. The original values remain intact, and in call by value, the changes reflected back to the original values, as we are working with the original values. We are not receiving any copy of actual parameters into formal parameters. When a function is called by reference, then the formal parameters become references to the actual parameters in the calling function. This means that in the call by reference method, called function does not create its own copy of original value. It refers to the original values, only be different names. That is the reference. So the called function works with original data. In case of call by reference, the function works with original data, and any change in the value gets reflected to the data. Fine. Again, I am going to repeat the difference between call by value and call by reference method, as these are the important things in this chapter. Difference between call by value, call by reference, difference between actual and formal parameters, difference between pure and impure function. Okay, these differences are important. So in call by value method, you will receive the copy of for actual parameters into formal parameters. So the changes are not reflected back to the original values if you are making any change in the formal parameters. But in call by reference method, we work with the original data, so any change in the value gets reflected to the original data. Fine. I'm just telling you an example. Suppose your English teacher purposely writes grammatically incorrect passage on her sheet and gives it to you for corrections. So you copy down the given passage on your own sheet and make corrections there. Okay, she is writing grammatically incorrect passage on her sheet and gives it to you for corrections. You are not correcting her sheet. You are making your own copy. You are copy down the given passage on your own sheet and making corrections over there. Okay. So whatever changes take place in your sheet are not reflected back to the original, as the value of original is copied onto another, which is the work copy, whatever you are having. Okay. So this is the call by value method. Okay. The changes are not reflected back to her sheet, as you are making changes in your own sheet, that is copy of original. Fine. And in case of call by reference, suppose she is allowing you to work upon the same sheet, then whatever corrections you make will be there on the original. Okay? She is not telling you to make own copy of the passage. She is allowing you to make the changes in her sheet. Okay? In the original one. So whatever changes or corrections you will make, that will be there on the original sheet. So this is the difference between call by value and call by reference. Okay. Now come to actual and formal parameters. There are parameters in the method definition and in the function call statement. Okay. Parameters can appear in method definition as well as in function call statement. So the parameters that appear in function definition are called formal parameters, and the parameters that appear in function call statement are called actual parameters. Okay, whenever we are calling a function, the function being called, that will be function definition. So the parameters there will be known as formal parameters, and while we are calling a function, we will be passing some values to that function, okay, for the calculation. If we are calling a function and passing values, so these values or these parameters will be the actual parameters which appears in function call statement. Okay, and the parameters that appear in function definition are called formal parameters. Now there is an example of pass by value, call by value method. Class pass by val, public void pass by val test function. We have taken a variable int vol site value 7. We are invoking a function cube by passing value side variable we are passing. This is actual parameter, and this one is function call statement. We are calling this function. This function is being called. Okay, function call statement, and this function must be returning some value as we are catching that value within vol variable. Okay, so this is the function call statement. We are passing variable side while calling this function, and whatever we are receiving after executing this function, whatever this function is returning, we are receiving that within vol and we are printing that. So as soon as this line or this statement will be encountered, the control goes to here, to the function definition. This is the function call statement and this one is function definition. We are defining function cube over here as the body of function is here. We are receiving this actual parameter within A. Okay, so this one is formal parameter. We are receiving copy of actual parameter side into A. We are multiplying that 3 times, A into A into A. We are calculating the cube and returning with the help of return statement. This function is returning integers, so the return type is int. Return A into A into A. So whenever we will execute this function, pass by value test, this line will execute it, then this, then this, then this, then we'll come to this line. Control comes to this line, then the control goes to this function definition. Okay, then A into A into A, this function will return the result back to function call statement. Whatever the result we are getting after this, we will be receiving within vol variable and printing that. Okay, fine. So this is the example of pass by value, as we are passing value, actual parameters, and the copy of this side is we are receiving within A. Okay, this is actual parameter, this is formal parameter in function definition, this is appears in function call statement. Okay, now Another example, suppose we have in a class we have two functions called test and int change. The original value of ORIG variable is 10. We have printed the original value, 10 will be printed. Now we are calling a function change. We are calling this. Okay. So control will come here. Int change, this is returning a value integer type. The value of original is we are storing within A. This is the actual variable and this is the formal variable parameter. We are receiving 10 within A. Now we are making A 20. Instead of 10, we have increased the value by 10. A 20. Return A. Now we are receiving a copy of original value actual parameter into formal, and we are making change. We are altering the value of the value of A. We are making changes. Okay, and in call by value, changes will be reflected back to the not reflected back to the original data. So the value of A will be 20 and the value of original will be 10 only. Okay. We cannot alter the value of this as we are receiving the copy of this within A. So if we are making any changes, that original data will remain intact. Okay. So now if we are printing original value, 10 will be printed. Then we are calling change function. Control goes here. Then A20. A has become 20. So 20 will be printed. We are receiving 20 within X. We are calling and receiving the value returning statement. Int X. We are printing X. So 20 will get printed. And after that we are again printed the original value, that will be same 10. Because in call by value, original values remain intact. Okay.